with what we collectively have identified as immediate themes and action areas, and developed together in April and May, collectively work together to develop action steps associated with the key issues. So then we can begin implementation of the short-term action steps and begin looking at long-term strategies. By the way, you notice that this meeting is being recorded, and we're doing so we don't miss any of the conversation that might occur in the chat, and we'll have collected all of this. So, sorry, just struggling with the screen here. So with that, we have asked for help from Bethany von Steinbergs and Julie Brock to assist us in facilitating these conversations. And many of you know Bethany or Julie from other work they've done in the community. We really appreciate the guidance that they've provided and look forward to how they manage through this virtual approach to what has been otherwise very successful in-person events. So with that, I'll introduce Bethany and give her the floor.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Patrick. Thank you, everyone, for joining and taking an hour out of your busy morning to be here and to share your feedback with the Downtown Task Force. It's an incredible honor that you would be here. I just want to share just a couple kind of rules of interaction this morning, especially because we have a virtual delivery and we have quite a few participants, and we do want to hear from you and honor the people who are here today. So I just want to start with just some agreements. This morning, as in all the sessions, we want to just start with a reminder that we're going to agree that we're going to listen with the same passion with which we want to be heard. It's very easy at times to say, I want to really quickly share my thoughts and reflections, but we are going to take kind of a process today. We're going to have 4 questions, which I'll outline in a moment. But I want the process to be that, 1, we reflect on the question. How would we respond to this? 2, write down your response. So whether you need to get a piece of paper in front of you or open another tab on your screen so that you could type your responses, you know what's best for you. But I'm going to actually ask you to write your responses down before responding. And then we will respond. Sometimes we will be using the chat, and sometimes we will be asking you to unmute. And I will explain this in just a moment as well. And then the idea is, when you are responding, you respond, and when you are not responding, that you listen to the other people, because they may actually have some of the same feelings as you, or you may think differently and want to adapt your response accordingly. So I'm going to ask you to go to the next slide. There will be 4 questions that will be overarching our time this morning. And these are what they are. We're going to first start with, over the last 3 years, what innovations have you done in your business to be successful? And then what innovations did you encounter downtown over the past 3 years? In the sense of, some of you might not be a business owner attending this morning. And so from your work downtown, from your travels downtown, from supporting businesses, you likely have encountered those innovations. So we want to hear what you have to say about that. And then also our second question will be, in 3 words, describe a thriving downtown. Our third question will be, what is getting in the way, or what should we be doing to ensure that we have a thriving downtown? And then our fourth question is, are we beginning to see some themes? I want to remind you, before we start off, that this morning's discussion, as Patrick outlined, is just to identify some of those higher level umbrella themes. This is not a solutions meeting. We are not nailing down specific outcomes today. We are trying to really hear kind of the vibe and some of those larger themes that are present in you and your perspective. And so this is not a debate this morning. This is not a space to go back and forth. This is really a space to be able to share and identify based on your perspectives and what you see. I will say, as you look at these 4 questions, for question number 4 and question number 2, question 2 and 4, we are going to exclusively use the chat when we get to that time and not before, because we are using the chat this morning. I want to describe this very clearly. We are using the chat this morning as data points. So what you type in the chat is literally data. So we will collect that. Julie Brock is on this call, and her job, she will be note-taking, and in a moment, she's going to share her screen so you can see her physically typing the notes. But also for questions 2 and 4 in particular, in order to garner the responses of everyone, we are actually going to be typing into the chat. And so I'll explain that again when we get to that, but just giving you a little heads up. For questions number 1 and questions number 3, we are actually going to offer you a chance to unmute, but please do so with the raise the hand feature. Okay, so you're going to raise the hand. That will cause your little icon to come up into the top, and then I will call on you. So I will say, Julie, and then Julie can respond to that question by unmuting. We're asking that your responses to question 1 and 3 be very short in order to ensure that we can hear from multiple people. And if we are running out of time, then we would encourage you, and I will ask you to type your response in the chat so that no one's comments are missed. No one's comments will be missed. Even if you don't get a chance to unmute, you will have a chance to still write your response to those questions into the chat. I'm also asking, because we are using the chat as a point to collect data, I'm asking that you don't use the chat for banter back and forth. Even I know you're excited maybe to see some of your friends. You're maybe excited to see John Wade or Wafa this morning. I don't want you to be like, hey, what's up, Wafa? Okay, I don't want you to say that in the chat because we are using the chat for data. So just that for this morning, try to restrain yourself from using the chat for anything except for the responses to the questions. Also, some of you may have attended the sessions in person. You may have attended one of these 3 other sessions at Pasquale's or Fagan Studios or Chateau Theater that we have already had. And I'm going to ask that you use this morning to listen only, because again, if we're collecting data points, we have already collected the data from your responses from those previous meetings. And so we're just asking, if you've attended a previous session, you just listen this morning. All right. I'm going to invite Julie to share her screen so she can collect notes. And we're going to begin with question number 1. Over the last 3 years, what innovations have you seen in downtown businesses, or what innovations have you been a part of? And so I am going to have Julie share this so that you can see that she's typing the responses. Jules, can you make your general screen just a lot larger because it's looking kind of small? And so I'm going to ask you right now to just type your responses, or sorry, write or type your responses. I'm going to give you a solid 60 seconds, okay, right now, to write down over the last 3 years, what innovations have you seen in your business to be successful, or what innovations did you encounter downtown? And we are going to share these things back by raising our hand and unmuting in just a minute. So I'm going to let you think through what innovations you've done or what innovations you've seen. And as a reminder, if you join late, this meeting is being recorded so that we do not lose any of the data points that people share in their discussion. Julie is a very fast typer, but we just want to make sure that we collect everything. All right, I'm going to ask if you have a specific innovation that you'd like to share about, which allowed you to be successful or that you've seen downtown, that you raise your hand, and I'm happy to call on you. We would love to hear from you. It's very important for us to celebrate our successes and also hear from one another of the things that have been done or are being done. So feel free to raise your hand and I will call on you. I'd love to hear from as many people as possible. Yeah, Zoe.
It's kind of a simple thing, but it really stood out to me is at the height of COVID, the downtown restaurants had a dining area that used to be a parking spot with just tables kind of set haphazardly, but as a temporary solution. And I just loved it when I was sitting at one of those tables or when I was walking by them. It created a foot traffic and diners, and it created such a like a Parisian European vibe that I thought it was just such a vibrant thing to see. And what I did myself, I used tech over the last 3 years, and I honestly think we did a really good job adopting tech and making things available. This meeting's one of them to make sure that everybody can attend.
Yeah, thank you. So that kind of, those temporary outdoor meeting spaces for dining and also the technology. Eric.
Hey all.
Hello.
Yeah, I will definitely also parrot the parklets were great. And I'd say that kind of there's a lot of other creative use of these traditionally kind of car spaces. Like there were markets that were occurring in parking lots that were just some of the more vibrant spaces that I experienced within Rochester within that kind of pandemic era.
Cool. Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, and then for
Go ahead.
my own business side of things, a lot of obviously remote and video meetings that we all kind of experience, but again, those outdoor seating, that also facilitated being able to have a lot of kind of business and community organizing discussions. And then walking meetings as well.
Yeah. So I hear, the remote and video meetings as well in the beginning. I'll make sure to document that. That's good. Thank you very much. Anything else to add, Eric?
Just that in addition to that, thank you. The walking and then also kind of using those outdoor spaces for kind of those other, thank you.
Yes. And Julie will write like a 1 or a 2, especially if you want to second something, we're documenting that we'll have a multiple feedback. Brenda.
Sorry, it took me a second to unmute. I wrote stuff and I can just pop it in the chat. So Julie doesn't have to do all the typing, but she'll probably want to simplify it anyway. Just quickly at the foundation, like everybody, we created totally virtual events and did more interactive sessions. And it upped our game and we learned new things and skills by doing practice sessions. But I thought the library's response of delivery of materials from curbside to parking garage to service windows was pretty amazing. And I'll reiterate what everybody else said about the outdoor dining, but beyond that, the restaurants created complete meal pickup for holidays. I thought that was really super cool.
Cool. I like it. Curbside materials pickup, outdoor dining, interactive sessions, virtual events. Awesome. Thank you, Brenda. Danielle.
I would +1, Brenda. Thanks so much for mentioning the curbside. I know that when the pandemic started, I made sure I stayed, isolated, and it was really nice to be able to have access to the restaurants, be able to support them, but not necessarily have to go in. The one thing I really appreciated about the downtown businesses, specifically Pasquale's, for example, was that they expanded their options. So it wasn't just
sure.
You order a pizza and then, you pick it up. It was actually this array of store goods and products that you could bring home and essentially replicate at home. So I would
Cool.
say being, scrappy and figuring out, different ways to offer products to customers. Another good example was Blue Duck when they did the TV dinners. That was awesome. We had a blast. My kids and I had a blast not only supporting Blue Duck and ordering those TV dinners. It was a new thing. What I liked about that was that it was ingredients that they put together. It wasn't necessarily from a freezer in a big box store. So I thought that was really cool how they offered TV dinners, and it added an element to watching movies together at home as like a fun activity that was totally local. So
Cool. Thank you, Danielle, so much. So I hear just scrappy, innovative products, new options, offering array of goods besides just the traditional things of restaurants, specifically Blue Duck and Pasquale's. Awesome. Thank you. Thanks, Jules, for getting that down. Anyone else? What innovations did you encounter downtown or did you implement in your business? Yes. University Square.
Yes, so UMR here. One of the things that we implemented was our Next Gen Med program, and how that kind of impacts the downtown area is that it now allows for UMR students to be on campus year round. So they will have a year round presence there. And then the second thing that we did was the acquisition of the DoubleTree and the renovation of space there. So really creating another area for our students to not only live downtown Rochester, but also look at Rochester as a potential option for what they might do after they graduate from UMR.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Innovations that you did or that you've seen? Walter.
Well, one of the things that we did was to expand our market area to include more of the retail trade area, which meant doing a lot more digital offerings. We've also been working as University Square to create more evening and weekend hours that are uniform so that people know that we're open and can depend on us. The other thing is, we, of course, have always had a website. We just have expanded it. We've added in classes, etc. to it that, we now have way broader customer base than we ever had.
Cool. Thank you so much, Walter. Patrick.
I'll just say as we're maybe perhaps pivoting to the next question, just how affirming this is and how inspiring all of this is. And we've heard this at each of the other sessions, the amazingly creative things that people did.
Absolutely.
Oftentimes immediate pivot, bootstrapping it, really creative ideas, and how really the market responded. I mean, that was, that's part of it. The community responded, supported businesses, and I think it's a testament, and it's really the foundation that I hope we can build on as we look forward to the 2023 and beyond. So
absolutely,
this is really incredible, and I want to publicly thank all of the businesses who took steps to rethink their business, reach new markets, reach new customers. And as a customer to many of your businesses, I very much appreciated it as well. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. We are going to move to the next question, but I'm thankful to some of you who have already typed your responses, even to question 1 in the chat. If you think of something as it relates to the innovations that have helped you to be successful or that you've seen in downtown businesses, feel free to enter that now. Type your response if you didn't get a chance to share out loud. We do want to collect those data points from you, and we will put those into all the data that we collect. For this next question, I do again want you to think about your 3 words. Right? What are 3 words that you would use to describe a thriving downtown? And what I'm going to have you do is think about those, first reflect before you write, and then I'm actually going to ask you to respond in the chat. And Julie will capture these words from the chat. I will also read some of them aloud because I think it's important for us to hear those things out loud, especially as it relates to themes, right? If we don't hear those things, we can't identify themes. So just take a moment, think about your 3 words. How would you describe a thriving downtown in 3 words? And go ahead and feel free to implement those in the chat. Already I'm seeing people, purpose, convenience, people, trees, activity, friendly, unique, accessible, walkable, budget inclusive, inviting, safe, traffic, engagement, businesses, culture, connection, activated, menu of options, energetic, harmonious, gathering, entrepreneurial, artistic, pedestrian, people, commerce, neighbors. This is great. Thank you so much for putting your words into the chat. We will capture these. People, commerce, I already said that, sorry. Active, walkable, nightlife, beautiful, diverse, active, many events. Any other words that you have that you would use to describe a thriving downtown? What are some of those characteristics? Feel free to implement them into the chat. And also, it's okay if you want to write a word that someone else has already written, because that's important for us too. The frequency of certain words. If you agree with someone else's word, you can still rewrite it yourself. That's really important for us to know how many people said what. Safe. Thank you. Any other words? Please feel free to put them in the chat. Inclusive. Thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to let you still keep typing your 3 words into the chat as we are going to transition in a moment here to the 3rd question. And do not worry, Julie will capture all of these. Inclusive, innovative, unique, identity, entertainment. Thank you very much, everyone, for this. We will capture all of these words as we pivot to question number 3. Okay, for question number 3, I'm gonna give you a minute to write your responses down and reflect on them before we respond out loud. Again, I will take your hand raising and call on you. We're happy to hear your responses. The 3rd question is, what is getting in the way, or what should we be doing to ensure we have a thriving downtown? What should we be doing, or what is getting in the way to ensure we have a thriving downtown? Again, I'd love to hear from as many people as possible. And if you don't want to write your response in the chat to this specific question, I would encourage you just to unmute and I will call on you. But let's take 60 seconds here and write down our responses before we respond. All right. So if you're just joining, we're saying what is getting in the way, or what should we be doing to ensure we have a thriving downtown? Again, we're not using the chat for back and forth. We're using the chat for data points. So if you feel more comfortable writing your response in the chat, please feel free to do that. If you would like to unmute and share with the group, we would really love to hear from you as well. Danielle.
Okay, I know people don't like hearing it. Parking, I mean, here's the deal. You know, depending on the day, parking is accessible. And then some, you know, there are times, especially when there are really popular events, parking can be a barrier. I don't want to lug a bunch of stuff, my kids, you know, long distance somewhere around Rochester to get to where I'm getting to. So I would say that, or if I just need a quick jaunt to go downtown, I like to have some accessibility. I would say it's a challenge. I work remote now, and when I go downtown, it's a challenge finding parking. So I would say that. I would also say what I really appreciate about downtown are the events. So the Downtown Alliance, when they put on those events, it's super fun. It's a great excuse to get downtown. I would say more of that. I know it takes quite a bit of effort to pull those off, but perhaps maybe, you know, getting some shared responsibility and buy-in from other groups in the community to also put those on as well.
So yeah, the more events, but also the shared, you know, collaboration of being able to put those on. Yeah,
Right.
Danielle?
I mean, I can't imagine one organization putting those on all the time.
Sure.
Many of us that know that, you know, do events know what it takes to pull those off. I think, you know, encouraging that shared responsibility to, you know, put on some events and have some guidelines in place to make sure those happen and they're successful would be great. But I also know that there are some, you know, that have attempted to do that, and it's quite a bit of challenge with, you know, profit and just pulling it off expense wise. So it'd be nice for those funded.
Thank you, Danielle. Thank you. Marty.
So I will start by repeating what Danielle said about engaging other groups. I think that one of the issues that Rochester faces at large is some community cohesion. And I think that'd be a great way to coach some of these groups on how you can host successful events downtown rather than doing it yourself. And some of that happens, but more could happen. I think that two of the big things that I see, or the biggest thing, is activating vacant spaces. And that's going to involve a partnership, obviously, with a lot of private landowners. But whether it's a new space or a newly vacant space, I think there's a lot of events that we could be hosting in those spaces. So a lot of communities will do art crawls, they'll do temporary pop-up art galleries, they'll do events, especially events that don't have alcohol, because that's obviously a liquor license you need, but game nights or library things, dances, anything to utilize that space. And that may involve that somebody needs to rent out that space for the night, but if the RDA can act as a conduit with landlords and people seeking to activate those spaces, even temporarily, to create a more engaging space and engaging downtown on a regular basis. I think another opportunity is how we engage with other communities, recognizing that we do have a pretty successful downtown compared to other communities our size. And some towns have had a lot of success bringing in kind of secret shoppers and secret people to come in, engage with the community leaders, but then also create some reports for the businesses in that area and say, hey, when our people were in, here's what they noticed you did right and wrong. And there's structures out there that you can rip off, duplicate, and do that I think would be very valuable in Rochester.
Cool. Thank you, Marty. I'm just going to repeat back, Marty, some of the main things I heard you say, just to make sure we capture that. But I heard you, that's fine. I heard you say engaging with other groups, like a community cohesion piece, activating vacant spaces, pop-ups being one of those you mentioned, the RDA working with landlords, and then also engaging with other communities, those like secret shopper situations. Did I capture it pretty well?
Yep, I think those are pretty much
okay. Thank you. Brent.
Yeah, I will echo the parking. That was the first one on mine. I could / convenience. That's part of that. And more events. You know, I put reasons to come downtown.
Okay.
Would echo that. But specific to Rochester, we are very unique in the fact that we have a subway and skyway system, and we've had a lot of businesses close just in the last, really, I'd call it really maybe since COVID. I don't know if it's all related necessarily to COVID, but I work at US Bank downtown. So I'm thinking of, you know, just in the subway of my own building being Center Place building, Subway, DQ, Dobby's, a shoe store, a salon, specialty shops. And then in the Skyway system, restaurants. We used to have a really vibrant lunch area with a lot of different restaurants. I know some that used to be on third floor of the gallery years ago, and now that's UMR, and that's fine. Those are things that change, but we used to then also have one, and that pretty much probably really got affected by COVID. But I think what I'm getting back to is that some specifics that we have the subway and skyway system. It's very unique to Rochester, but it's a lot of things that you hear when you go to other places and people talk about Rochester. They probably came here for the clinic and they think it's really cool that we have this neat little system. And there was all these little shops they remember going to, and now a lot of those places are closing. And I realize those things happen over time, but we've had a lot of that just in the last few years. And
Thank you.
I'm wondering
Yeah.
what might be a reason for that. So thanks.
Thank you, Brent. Leslie.
Thanks for that. I'm just percolating a lot of good ideas from what everybody else says.
Yeah.
So thank you for that. So one thing I just would like to, that I always kind of feel lost about is, and I've been on many civic communities through the years, so forgive me if I'm kind of mining backwards, but we used to have a study that would tell us, like, what is the makeup of the population for downtown? Like, who is currently living there right now? Who is feeling the void of the entertainment, of the services, of the areas, to solve that short-term problem of why living there might not be as desirable, and maybe why they're considering not living there. I think that's a very valid, I mean, they are most of the people who would be generating. So there's that. And then looking at, like, well, who are we trying to draw downtown? Is it population? Is it, one thing that really resonated with me is back in the day when I was on the Committee of Urban Design and Environment, and this is like 2008, so I've been around a long time, was we had somebody coming in for Pride for Public Spaces. They were an excellent firm. I'd love to have them come back, but they flat out told us, it's okay to be yourselves. Like, and not to always be the scrubbed up, presentable face of Rochester when somebody's talking about brand, but, to be real and authentic about who we are so that we can engage ourselves. And, as far as eventing for downtown, that was a fantastic point about the indoor subway. What I've been struggling with as a remote worker is a reason to come downtown. I would love to have like an indoor fitness trail and fitness markers, and so that I can get my indoor exercise and be able to traverse downtown and also, like, know my data points instead of on my watch, but and little encouragements. I'm a big proponent of different kinds of music. When I was in high school, John Marshall, class of '82, thank you. We used to parade downtown 3 times a year, and I don't know if anybody wears that, but our homecoming, we would line up at Soldiers Field and we would march from South up to North Broadway, and then we would disperse at Central Park. Through the years, and I'm not just saying that high school bands need to come through here, it's a disruptive to traffic, but it's also an event. It's very short term, it can divert traffic, but, I'm very fascinated by social medias, a website called Choir, the community of singing, and having that be an interactive that can be planned and spontaneous. I think there's a lot of opportunity for that. So just a lot of ideas all over the place. I've not very cohesive, but those are just things that that I think would be something to explore.
Thank you, Leslie. Yeah, thank you. I hear some of the pieces about branding, right? Like, who are we, the demographic that we're targeting. Thank you, Julie, for capturing those notes. Thank you, Leslie, for all those ideas. I also just want to stop and just say thank you to all of you who are putting your responses in the chat and allowing us to collect data points that way. I really, really appreciate it. And if we haven't typed it into the question yet, we have gathered that. We will take all of those. So thank you very much for those that are typing their responses in the chat. Anna.
Yeah, I'll be quick about this, but maybe from not my perspective, but my brother, who's 10 years younger than I am and in his early or mid 20s, he and his wife don't feel like there's a lot of things to do for young professionals. So I don't know what the ideas are, but that might be a gap that could be addressed in finding things to engage young professionals who are in the community and encouraging them to stay in the community versus trying to find that someplace else.
Cool. Thank you very much, Anna. Appreciate that. Eric.
Hey there. I'll throw this all in the chat as well. So a few points. I think that there's a lack of comfortable kind of third places within the downtown area that aren't transactional. So that can be dog parks or like kid play areas that are near kind of parentally engaging areas. And this kind of gets to a point that a lot of other people have been mentioning. There, downtown has like good reasons to go downtown, but very good reasons to stay downtown.
Not just go, but stay, you're saying.
Exactly,
Okay,
to spend
yeah.
time there beyond just going to a restaurant and then leaving. There's the beauty of downtown, and the reason that people enjoy going there is that small business format. You can have a lot of shops and restaurants in close proximity, but often the regulations around those make it less preferential for a business to open up in that space than it would be to open up and say kind of out in the more suburb areas of town.
Okay.
And I think that there's kind of some regulatory changes that can be made there around liquor licenses and some of kind of like the different food handling regulations as well that would make it easier for new restaurants and businesses to open.
Yeah, essentially, are you saying, am I speaking this back, Eric? Like, what is the incentive essentially to open a business downtown and not having it be difficult?
Yeah, and yeah, and a lot of that it ends up kind of going back to city and county level regulations.
Okay.
Car centricity. So parking had been mentioned a few times on this call. If you look at the overview or overhead map of the downtown area, over a third of off-street space is car parking. And our main street is it's a very uncomfortable space to spend time. The main street being Broadway through the downtown area, historically the main street. It's a very uncomfortable space for anyone to spend time outside of a car. It's less enjoyable, to spend time in generally, and it's less accessible for folks with disabilities because of that.
Okay.
And then the final point that I'd add, and I'll let you catch up on the typing too. Sorry about that.
We got it. We're recording it, so we'll go back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wonderful. It's just there's a real lack, and I know that DMC and the city more broadly is working on this, but there's the housing affordability and how it ties into the lack of non-rental options within that downtown area. So that can be condos, townhouses, etc. Density is good for a lot of reasons, but many who have the means to buy a house don't have that option within that downtown section of town.
Okay, so not just affordability from a rental perspective, you're saying also being able to not rent and live downtown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, for folks who are staying here, I think the rental options end up being like, oh yeah, well, it's for the trainees or it's for kind of people who are just starting out here. And if they want to purchase, then they will settle in a different part of town. Well, ideally, you'd want them to stay here, continue investing in this part of the community where they have formed these roots.
Sure.
And if they don't have that option, that's a barrier. Those are my points. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Jules, can you just add that, making sure that we note on that housing thing that there's non-rental options available for housing? Awesome. Zoe.
That's actually great. I would like to add one more to that.
A +1 to that. Okay.
Right. So I work in real estate. I work with a lot of people that are here from out of town or out of state. And that is something that I do here. I do think there's a different stake when somebody owns versus somebody rents and it becomes their hometown. But that was not what I was going to make, but what a great point. So I wanted to say, downtown, there's a certain time, maybe it's in the evening, but there's sometimes a certain time of the year or time of the day where all we can provide is food and drinks. And I don't want to take away from the restaurants. We have such great variety now. But all we can provide is food and drink. So it would be great to have experience. It would be great to have somebody somewhere to point younger families or younger professionals to spend activities on. And in my case, I'm a very conservative risk taker myself. So I can see why this would be like difficult to green light. But I thought it would be a great idea to have some kind of interactive art, interactive experience, public art for people to just kind of interact with as they walk around, as they experience downtown. But one thing that I thought was that it wouldn't be as big of a risk would be to kind of green light temporary pop-up type places in 6 month increments where you kind of see how the residents react to it. And sure, maybe
sure.
to be a long-term business leader, but that way for the locals that are in town, they can have different varieties of, oh, this is happening now, but next month this is happening then. I think that's something, when I think of a thriving downtown, when I think of a vibrant downtown, I think of activities, not just a destination. And I think that's something we can work on.
And can I speak this back, Zoe, just to clarify? Are you saying that people, for example, like providing an opportunity for them to do a pop-up for 1 to 3 months in the idea that they would try their business to see if there's an appeal before they would have a permanent space?
Right. Ideally, it'd be exactly a path like you just said to a permanent business. But even if it's not, even if it's
then
just
it's variety,
it's still variety. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, Zoe. Thank you. All right, Marty.
To build on what Zoe said and maybe tie a couple of threads together, utilizing existing resources, I think the pop-up idea for business is a fantastic one, and utilizing the Small Business Development Center, SBA, for really intensive coaching. We've done incubators elsewhere in town for a lot of businesses. Having a downtown storefront incubator would be, I think, a really valuable way to expand the network. It might be something that existing businesses would try a second location, but it's not just saying, hey, here's an open space, we'll cover your rent, go in there. It's providing a lot of support to that person to make sure that they're successful.
Okay, so like the entrepreneurial support to make that happen. Yes.
Yeah. So bring in small business coaching and everything from writing a business plan to a lot of our organizations have access to data on how much money gets spent on certain industries in this zip code, or what is the most underrepresented category of sales in the city of Rochester that might succeed here. That data exists.
So coaching, but also data so that you don't open something that you shouldn't.
Exactly. So very intensive coaching, which also helps to maybe steer a little bit. We want people to do what they want to do, but we can maybe steer what we see as the biggest gaps as well.
Okay.
And then I'll throw one more +1 for the single family home ownership opportunities, new build with walking distance downtown.
Cool. All right, I'm going to take Daniel. And then if you didn't get a chance to respond, I'm going to ask that you write your response in the chat for this question number 3, if you thought of other ideas since you responded. Daniel.
Yeah, talking about what is getting in the way and what we should be doing to have a thriving downtown. I think we should be thinking outside the box when it comes to our downtown. We are constrained for space. So thinking outside the box, I'm thinking we should think beyond what we see now as our traditional downtown and look beyond Soldiers Field, where we had the former K-Math, all the way to the where we do the what is this thing called? The we do this, I'm sorry, this where we bring the animals and all that stuff. What's that location called any longer? Down up beyond
the fairgrounds. The fairgrounds.
The fairgrounds. Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm having a moment, Anyway, beyond all the way to the fairgrounds. I mean, like I said, I was the one that put in the chat, build a Ferris wheel like we have in London, something like that. Let our downtown just be expensive, think beyond just, and then build like a loop system for a people mover. We should think big. I know it's all about money and stuff like that, but I'm just thinking if we want to think, then we should think big,
Think
anyway,
big,
that's all I have to say.
So Daniel, am I hearing this? Not only think big, like think outside the box, but expand. You're saying expand even the view of what downtown is a little bit further.
We are too confined right now. We don't have anywhere else to go but to move further and let our downtown be more expansive.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Such a rich discussion, and I've just glanced at the chat as well. So thank you for those of you who are writing your responses in that. We will, again, capture all of that. I really appreciate it. So we're going to move to this final question. And this final question, again, I'm going to ask you to reflect and then type your response into the chat and I will read it. And then we're going to kind of just get a feel for what comes up. The question is, are we beginning to hear some themes? And when I say that, maybe it's in your own response. A theme, can't be a sentence. A theme is a word, maybe a hyphenated word, okay? But a theme is these larger things. As the Downtown Task Force works to kind of identify what are some important themes from what we're hearing, can you help them? Can you help them right now to be able to know what those things are based on not just what you shared, but also what you heard others sharing or what you saw in the chat? What are some of those major themes? Would you be willing to think about that and then reflect your response into the chat? Again, just one word or a hyphenated word to describe the theme. What's emerging as some important themes? As you have your word or two words, please write it in the chat. I hear purpose and access, growth, activation, finding new direction, cost to cure, activity, more daily activities. Activity as a theme. Yep. Adapt. Yeah, what are those big themes from some of the things you've heard, not only the innovations, but also the barriers? What are some of the things that the task force should be thinking about? Lowered barriers to entry. I like your hyphens, Eric. Activation, access, entertainment, nightlife, past 10 p.m. +1 on the access. We will capture all of these things. Any other themes? What are some of those major things you're hearing as people share? Maybe not even just your response. Safety, resilience. Okay, any other themes that people want to weigh in? A youth culture, accessibility, +1 to nightlife. Okay, I'm seeing many words here. We'll capture those responses as ideas. Support, nightlife, vibrant. Okay, cool. I'm hearing these are, some of these larger themes, the umbrella over which a lot of these ideas can fall under. Fellowship, brand. Thank you, everyone, for your kind of analysis and synopsis of these things. I really appreciate it. I'll give you just another minute or two to type into the chat. What are some of the things that you identified as themes? Entrepreneurial, professional help. This is fantastic. Again, what are some of the themes that you heard during the discussion? I'm going to invite you to put those into the chat. I do want to thank all of you this morning for joining us. I'm going to ask John Wade here to close us out as we wrap up, but I do want to thank everyone just for your honoring posture this morning, your honoring posture in the chat, and your honoring posture of each other as we had this discussion. It really allows us to gather as much information as possible. So thank you. Please keep writing any ideas you have for themes into the chat, but I do want to honor your time and make sure that we end at 10 o'clock. And so do not fear that if you type something in, we're not going to capture it. We will do that. So John, I'm going to ask you, can you close us out?
Yeah, Bethany, thank you very much. And thank you to everybody today for participating. This task force really set out in a fairly short period of time to most importantly, listen to people. And I think this session, like the previous sessions, truly reflects that. I think also for people like Walter Hansen, myself, and others who have been at this a very long time, there's as much energy in the room today or on this call today as there was 25 years ago, whenever we were last creating something called the RDA. So I am very optimistic about the future. I think not only these sessions that we have participated in, this one today has been a remarkable session of really amazing ideas that we can move forward, but also for everyone on the call to be thinking about the working sessions that are going to come out of this work. And those will actually be starting in April. So we'll be hearing more about working sessions to to take more of these grand ideas and move them into action. So that's an exciting next step. And again, most of this is in a fairly compact time frame. So that's really pretty exciting. You know, small business is big business. And I think often what is reflected here is the power of small business and the importance of small business and what that does for vitality. And that's a wonderful thing. And I frankly am very optimistic. I happen to not only have an office downtown, but I live downtown. And there's so many remarkable possibilities for us. We've heard a lot of them here, but I am also incredibly grateful and incredibly bullish or excited about the future growth of Mayo Clinic, not only being here, but what their expansion plans are going forward will serve all of us very well. So I thank all of the participants in this partnership that have been working together to really frame up this listening and paying attention to what people are saying and then acting on it. So there will be other opportunities for engagement. Bethany is wonderful. Thank you very much for all of your great work. It is truly appreciated, but thank you very much. We look forward to seeing you at some of the follow-up sessions and really making a better city overall and certainly a more vibrant downtown. So thank you very much, Bethany.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for everyone for contributing.
And the great Julie Brock and all the others.
Yes, thank you, Julie, for collecting all the notes. So we appreciate it. Yes, Patrick.
Thank you, and thanks, John. And what I failed to do in my opening remarks was to acknowledge the participating organizations, and I just think I wanted to do that. So not only Destination Medical Center and John from Rochester Area Economic Development, but the RDA, Kathleen Harrington, the Chamber of Commerce, Experience Rochester, the City of Rochester, and the mayor are all active members of the task force that has been